On 19th July 2023, Guernsey Post issued 4 stamps with the theme of regional stamps. These stamps feature the Channel Islands liberation stamps issued in 1948 and the regional weldings issued between 1958 and 1966. In this episode, let's talk about the stamps and the stamps featured on these stamps. I visited Guernsey for the Island Games 2 months ago, and I continued to check the stamps issued by Guernsey Post. These 4 stamps caught my attention. Firstly, stamp on stamp is a theme I love, and secondly, they are well designed, and thirdly, I recognize the stamps they feature because I have some of them. They are the Channel Islands liberation stamps and the regional welding definitive stamps. I mentioned these stamps in my first video about the stamps of Guernsey, as they are important stamps in postal history. I didn't know the detailed information about these stamps. After some research, I realized that the stories behind these stamps are much more complex and interesting than I thought. In this episode, let me introduce the liberation stamps, and we will discuss the regional issues next. The Channel Islands, including Jersey and Guernsey, are crown dependencies of the UK. Currently, both of them have independent postal administrations and issue their own stamps. But before 1969, people on these islands used UK stamps. The Channel Islands were occupied by Germany during World War II. They are liberated on 9th May 1945. In March of the following year, an inter-island conference was held on Jersey. Jersey officials suggested that Jersey and Guernsey should each be permitted to have their own distinctive postage stamps, or at least a slogan postmark. The main purpose was to promote tourism in the Channel Islands. It wasn't the first time that the Channel Islands have this kind of request. Back in 1931, Guernsey requested a stamp of local interest to mark King George V's Silver Jubilee year of 1935. A design was submitted, but the idea was rejected. Back in those days, the issuance of stamps was far less frequent than it is today. For example, no new stamps were issued in 1947, and only 3 sets of commemorative stamps were issued in 1948. In contrast, Rommel planned to issue 15 sets of commemorative stamps in 2023. Today, if you were to approach random British people and ask about the stamps issued this year, they probably have no idea. But it wasn't the case back in the 1930s to 1940s. Letters were a primary form of communication at that time, and people used the stamps every day. Due to these factors, the postal department was very cautious about the themes of stamps, and the prevailing view was the perceived indignity of associating stamps with commercial advertising. The requests of Channel Islands about stamps faced a lot of challenges. However, after a series of negotiations, it was approved with certain restrictions. For instance, the stamps couldn't feature any floral animal or heraldic emblems exclusively associated with the Channel Islands. This precaution was taken because issuing such stamps may trigger the similar requests from the Isle of Man, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. The inclusion of such emblems on stamps could potentially fuel nationalism aspirations of those countries, which the UK government sought to avoid. But perhaps you have noticed that regional stamps with emblems were eventually issued starting in 1958. They still exist today and are more commonly referred to as country definitives. But that's another story. Back to the Channel Islands stamps. Breathing was chosen as the theme of the stamps. Reek is the seaweed found in the Channel Islands, and breathing refers to seaweed gathered for use as a fertilizer or fuel. It was felt that this was the only theme that would be uniquely recognizable to all Channel Islanders. Both stamps in this set were designed around this theme. The 1D or 1 Old Penny stamp was designed by J.R.R. Stobie of Harrison and Sons Limited, the company responsible for printing the stamps. It features a horse, a cart, and a man handling the rake. King George VI's portrait is on the right side of stamp with the crown above his head, and the 1 penny stamp was widely used on the islands to send newspapers. The 2.5 stamps was designed by Edmond Blampied, a Jersey-born artist. His design was similar to the 1 penny stamp, but it includes 2 horses and more men gathering rake. The 2.5 penny stamp represented the basic letter read from 1940 to 1957. The stamps was designed for the Channel Islands but can be used throughout the UK. The issue date was 10th May 1948, marking the 3rd anniversary of the liberation. The actual liberation date was 9th May, but in 1948 it fell on a Sunday. However, both the public and official reactions on these stamps were not favorable. Controversy surrounding this type of stamps persisted. From an internal memorandum of Store's department, it was stated that this issue is obviously going to be mainly a publicity and philatelic stunt. I have no objection to the British Post Office getting a little easy money, although it's a pity we're having to countenance such blatant maneuvers. And what is Royal Mail doing today? Director of Southwest Post Region had asked an internal memorandum what Guernsey and Jersey had done to get such a huge advertisement without doing a stroke of work. On the islands, Blampied's design was appreciated. Stonebys' design, on the other hand, were considered to be of significantly lower quality. There was also question as why the stamps issued on the anniversary of the liberation made no reference to that scene. That's a good question. Outside the islands, there was no enthusiasm for celebrating the anniversary of liberation. More seriously, people had no idea about what happening on the stamps. The significance of the blessing was lost. Refused cards, mock cards, dejected horses, and gloomy storm clouds are how people outside the islands describe the stamps. Also, I didn't know what the stamps featured when I firstly saw them. This year marks the 75th anniversary of the liberation stamps, and Guernsey Post, as an independent stamp issuer, issued this set of commemorative stamps. The first 2 stamps feature the liberation stamps. The information, including the designers, are clearly on the stamps. The stamps are cancelled by first day issue postmarks. They were cancelled on 9 a.m. of the issue dates in St. Peter Port, the capital of Guernsey. The real cipher of King Charles III is on the top right corner. For the face value, 56 pence is for the letter instead of bailiwick of Guernsey, and 87 pence is for the letter to the UK. Although the response to this set of liberation stamps was not favorable, they hold significance in the postal history of the Channel Islands. They can be seen as the predecessors of the regional defensive stamps, a topic we will discuss in the next episode. The primary information of this episode is sourced from an article at the Postal Museum. Please check the description for this and other related links. As always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and follow me on social media if you haven't. Thank you for watching. See you next time.